Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
We are talking today about the mastermind effect. And it was funny, I sat down Wednesday to take a look at the article for our newsletter. The newsletter goes out every Thursday, pretty much, sometimes Friday. And so when I sit down to do it, it's what I've been working on that week. And we had done a mastermind. We meet Wednesday mornings with our group. And I realized it really kind of summarizes everything we've been doing here. Because we are talking about a spiritual path. And when I say that, it's not a religious path, it's a spiritual path of people that want to return to the original kingdom of heaven, which is we call our God-related, or returning to the Father. Or awakening, being aware of who we really are. So there's a lot of tools that we can use in that process. One of the ones that we share with you here is silence in prayer. In other words, the original word for prayer really meant to set a trap in the original Aramaic. And in setting a trap, what that means is that I go to God and I'm caught up in God. So prayer is not going to God, if you will, and asking for anything. Okay, because God already knows. Jesus very outlined that very, very definitely in the Scriptures. And so, as a matter of fact, what came to me was, if the Father's eye is on the sparrow, then surely He will care for you. So the idea is not, we don't need to ask God, we need to make a connection with God and trust God. So we teach centering prayer, which is sitting in the silence or meditation for a period of time. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight because we need to overcome all the patterning we've had in our lives. We also have gone through Ho'oponopono, which is that Hawaiian idea, which is 4 phrases, I love you the divine, please forgive me, because anything that happened because it's stored in our subconscious mind, and there's nothing out there. Everything is from us projecting the world out into the world, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but now quantum science says when we think, we change the outcomes. So now we know that the divinity principle we've been talking about is that you're an expression of divinity. And so everything that comes through us, we create, which is not happy. But what we're saying in the silence, that slowly corrects itself. Another thing we've done is tapping. We went through tapping, which is EFT or energetic freedom technique, which is a means of using the meridians in the body to release the upsets. We know that upsets and anger and hate and all those trauma things are stored physically in the body somewhere. And if we can release them, then our mind is freer to be who we really are. And it's really interesting for me, all these things that we're teaching as tools. And the mastermind effect, and in your bulletin, is a sheet that has the 7 steps of masterminding, okay? So we're going to go through that, but I'm going to share that with you, that we do it in groups, and we encourage you. I believe it's part of the spiritual path. And please understand, we're not saying you have to do this. What we're saying is, there's some tools, pick one, or 2, or 3, whatever you choose to do. Because the idea is to return to the Father, or to become self-actualized. In other words, what that means is things work. Anybody like a life that works? And how come some people live life a little bit easier than others do? What is the difference between people? And we're finding out most of that is their thinking and what's at their soul, in their heart, and are they allowing their true essence to be who they are? And it takes time to learn how to do that, because we've been so programmed by the world that here's what's true for me, that we've forgotten we're the divinity. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with, and all these things to help us return to the Father, which is the great parable that Jesus used of the prodigal son. So, if you would pull that, go in your bulletin and pull those things out. Okay. All right? Now, there's a 7-step process here, and this is a tool. Everybody there? This is a tool. And the first part there, I'm going to run through it very quickly, and then we'll do it in detail. But it says, I acknowledge first. And this is a returning to the Father. This is an acknowledgement, an affirmation, if you will, to clear the subconscious mind and get it ready to listen. Anybody familiar with listening? Okay. So it says, I acknowledge there's a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own, which means I'm going to let it go. I'm going to stop trying to run everything. Anybody familiar with trying to run things? And worried about the outcome. And we know, see, there's a deep, beautiful spark within you, which is divinity, which knows. However, we've covered it all up. The lady I'm working with, Dawn Clark, in her rejuvenation ideas, talks about overwriting the old script and putting your original script in place. Okay? Then it goes on and says, I surrender. One of the worst things we have to do is surrender. Everybody agree? When I surrender, I say, okay, I have messed it up enough. AA, that's one of the principles in AA, right? Is that reaches the point where all of a sudden I give up. There's too much here. And I surrender to that higher power. So number one, we recognize the higher power. Number two, we surrender to that higher power. Then the next step here is, I forgive. We have found one of the issues that kind of darkens and muddies up our soul is anger, hate, revenge, all those issues. And so it's a forgiveness is that step to cleanse all that. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been forgiving for years. Because it's a never-ending project. There's always somebody that comes up, oh my God. I was being quiet last week and I had somebody from high school come up. Why? Because it was buried deeper in my soul and it was time for me to look at it. So, I forgive. Next, I ask. Now, Jesus says in the Bible, ask and it shall be given to you.
I choose.
Huh?
I choose.
Oh, I missed. Excuse me. I choose. I choose. What I have written here is open to divinity. In other words, I now choose to listen. And what it says here, by filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, and beautiful. You see, we had a long conversation with somebody yesterday in a class. And she was having difficulty with a family member. Any familiar with family member difficulty? Standard procedure, right? And she kept praying for the individual and kept praying for the individual. So all of a sudden, we realized what she's doing is keeping the individual in her mind. Where here it says, I now choose to focus on divinity. So all of a sudden, it was an understanding that once I have asked, and once I connected with Spirit, knowing that I've already made that connection, I choose to allow only good thoughts in my mind. Because the world has so trained us with the negativity that we really need to ask for help. Okay? Now I go on and I ask. So the idea of asking is, once I've cleared that out, I've opened a space for the ability to ask Spirit. Everybody there? Because Spirit's always there and always has been there. However, we have neglected it, in my opinion. And when I start asking, after I clear the space, then I ask. Then it goes on and says, I accept, I now give thanks, and then I relax in quiet confidence. Okay? Now, what we're really talking about is redoing things. And Paul says, you ready? The Bible says, in Romans 12:2, and it's really all throughout the Bible, but this one has it very, very clearly. And it says, Paul is saying, and be not conformed to this world. Hello? Anybody agree the world is kind of in a mess right now? And when we get involved in it emotionally, in other words, if I get upset, and I'm not going to talk politics. Random's asked me not to talk politics. But when I get upset about a political person, I'm actually getting involved in the world's energies rather than the spiritual energies. Okay? Got it?
Got it.
I hate to be a spoiled sport, but even that next door neighbor that you don't like. Okay, that's why we sit and pray for them. Then it goes on and says, but being transformed by the renewing of your mind. So what's the big deal about renewing the mind? Here's the key. The Bible's full of this, renewing of your mind. So what it's saying is, you are a spark of divinity. Deep within you is an original divine script. In Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 says, you're created in the image and after the likeness of God. Does it say that? Yes, it says, created in the image and after the likeness of God. So what does that mean? That means you're an expression of God, period. Which means somehow we've lost our way. And so in losing our way, we got involved in the world and all the prejudices and all the biases and all the upsets and all the victim thinking has created us as we are. And so what we're talking about is getting back to my original script of who I am as a child of God. So as a child of God, what can I do? What is possible? Okay? Now, and I'm going to finish this. You ready? It says, by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. So we Matt and I had a conversation this week. What is the will of God? But anybody agree we blame God a lot for things? You know, God's will. God's will is joy, peace, happiness, perfection, abundance, health, happiness, joy, relationships. How can God's will be anything other than that? If God is perfect, then everything that God creates must be perfect. So at some level, you're perfect, no matter who you are. And that script has been overwritten by the world outside of us. And as a matter of fact, I was raised in a household where I was sinful, guilty, and dirty. They didn't know any better. They didn't. Okay, so here we are years later trying to still figure this out. And still working and overcoming the program that we all received, or I received, as a child. So it says, and I'm going to say it again, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So is what I'm dealing with when I don't have enough money to pay bills the will of God? No. How could God, who's perfect, create something that has issues and problems? So somehow the ego has corrupted that basic pattern, and here we are working with it. So how do we overcome it? How do we get back to the Father? How do we live the parable of the prodigal son returning to the Father? And did the prodigal son have to do anything in that story? He just had to wise up. He was in the field and all of a sudden realized, I can go home and I don't have to eat this. He was eating with the pigs in the field, okay? And he said, I don't have to do this anymore because I have a rich father. And he returned to the father, and what did the father do when he saw the son? Came running to him and gave him the beautiful robe, killed the fatted calf, gave him rings, and said, welcome home. Wouldn't it be nice to say your heavenly Father, welcome home? And see, we keep looking for something that's objectified. In other words, I can see that chair, so I call that a chair. So we want to see God. So we make up this story about a God sitting on a cloud with a big white beard. Interesting that it's a white man, I don't know why. But it's crazy because it's all conditioning from our cultures. Okay? So that conditioning has created this story in our mind, and we keep living out that story.
Pink elephant.
What, say again?
It's a pink elephant.
Well, what he's talking about is where you say, okay, see, when you get a thought in your mind, it's difficult to give it up. So he mentioned pink elephant. Everybody got a picture of a pink elephant? Stop thinking about it.
Good luck.
See, the only way to change it is gray elephant. How would you? Well, no, let's do a blue elephant. Okay? So it's changed. So we have the choice to change what we're thinking, but all this programming overrides it. It really does. So are we being loved? So the only language of God is love. There isn't anything else. And in that language of love is peace, happiness, joy, abundance, health. And what separates us as individuals is our thinking and our hearts.
Gotta do it. You said this morning in class,
Yes.
a lesson from Eric Butterworth was that we are not what we think what we think.
Yes.
And so you cannot identify with what you think, but then you create your own reality by changing your thoughts and reaffirming the truth of who you are.
Reaffirming the truth of who you are. And the truth, the absolute truth is, I am, you are a child of God. Okay, an expression of divinity. My life in itself is perfect and whole, just as I am. Okay? Want to add anything to that?
As always, you preach on what we study, so love it.
Yeah, and we're getting it. See, I keep getting up ready to do prosperity, but I really get that we have to deal with this issue of who we are and who is God. Did you ever try to define God? By definition, God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, which means God is all knowledge, God is all awareness, okay, and all presence. So we are part of that. So if you really stop and think about it, we are part of an energy that is everywhere present in the universe. And scientifically, that's a conversation today. Okay? So if that's true, what is our potential? Who are we? What are we here to do? And I believe each one of us has a divine expression that's in your soul print to share your gift. Do you ever notice how some people are really happy doing what they're doing? Because they're working out of their soul print. And you ever notice, anybody ever had a job they hated? I created 3 or 4 of them. Because I had to, because my mother and father or society said, or whatever it was. And I still wonder, what am I doing being a minister in Austin, Texas? You know, I say this quite often. You have no idea. Austin was nowhere near our radar. Okay? And yet here we are. Because you talked to me a couple of years ago. And so as life opens, you know, it's like people come in. I can remember the first time I went into Unity Church, and the first time I heard it, it was like, yes. My heart said, yes, this is it. Okay? And I'm going to read from the Course in Miracles to you. And this is a little bit, I'm going on the idea of what's happening out there now. War is a condition in which fear is born and grows and seeks to dominate. So in other words, fear takes over and we allow fear to dominate. So it's war, it's anger, it's retribution when we go into fear. And fear is the opposite of faith. In other words, if I doubt and fear, I'm saying I'm worried it's not going to happen. And then it goes on and says, peace is a state where love abides and seeks to share itself. You ready for this? Conflict and peace are opposites. So we cannot be in peace if we're in conflict. Very interesting conversation. Now, I go on here, and this is part of the light you bring. So each one of us is the light of the world, and you bring a light in your personal life for those around you. Science now knows they can measure the aura around you, and it goes far as they can measure out the 8 foot around you, and they know it goes further, but they don't have instruments to measure it. But as you walk into a group, as you walk into an area, you bring that energy with you. And the question is, what energy are you bringing with you? Is your energy love? Is it hate? What is it? And that's called a morphogenic energy, which means you create your world as you walk into it. Then, it says, you will rejoice at what you see because you see it to rejoice. In other words, you're going to be happy at what you see if you're happy about what you're seeing. Everybody get it? Then it goes on to say, while you think that suffering and sin will bring you joy. Anybody here agree? Sometimes when we get sick, it feels good because somebody takes care of us. If you're familiar with that idea, I'm good at that. Yeah. Nothing is harmful or beneficial apart from what you wish. It is your wish that makes it what it is in its effects on you, because you chose it as a means to gain some effect in your life. So the question is, are we choosing God? Are we choosing? And see, God is not this being out of the cloud somewhere. God is present everywhere. And actually, God is present in you, and all of us together are an expression of God. And it's that expression that we're here to share with each other. And see, what I keep looking at, we're having miracles, folks. We really are. Madeline and I are moving into a great house. I'm just going to leave it there. We've got that beautiful property down the street. We are going to move into a temple to God. And we are raising one. I think we're going to wind up about 1.3 million in that building down there. And why? Through the grace of God, because you believe it's possible. And it's also possible for each of us to hold each other in awareness, and the whole community elevates in its consciousness. See, it's a consciousness that pulls people out of poverty. It's consciousness that pulls people out of anger. It's consciousness that pulls people out of health issues. And we've all been through that. This congregation, it's amazing to me. When somebody gets sick, the prayer goes out. Valerie and the prayer chaplains work on it. And if you go in surgery, for goodness sakes, let us know. We're going to pray you in, right, MJ? We will be there to pray you in, because we know the energy of the community lifts all of us together. And there is no difference between any of us. We are all children of God. And I encourage us to stay on the path. Now, going back to the 7 steps of masterminding, just a quick overview. It's done in a group. It's done with that procedure. And if you would like to start a group, please see me. I would love to come out and help you get started. I think it takes at least 3 to start. Usually 4 or 5 is best. We have one group running now, and if anybody would like to start one, let me know. And I will share with you that 7-step process is a process to go through with each individual person. And again, the key is, everybody ready? Take a look at it again. Acknowledge. And now acknowledging that there's power greater than I am, which means my ego is going to shut up for a while. Okay? Number 2, and I want to surrender to that power that actually runs the universe. I'm going to forgive anything that has occurred that I'm upset about. I'm going to choose to work with the mastermind, the divinity. I'm going to ask for what it is I need. And in the group, each individual goes around and states what their specific ask is for that week. Right there. And then we go on, and what happens is each individual in the group, other than the one asking, gives the individual that just asked affirmative prayer. So if somebody asks for hair to grow, just using an example, I would say to that individual, I support you in your request. I know energy is working toward your hair. So that happens in the group. Would you like that example, Susan?
I love that.
Okay. And then the individual in step number 6 accepts. And then number 7, we all say together, knowing I have an everlasting covenant with God in the support of my group. I now relax in quiet confidence as I move in the direction of accomplishment. And that's the mastermind process. Okay. So much more to talk about, but we have things to do. I appreciate you. The main thing is, see, the key to it is, how's it working for you? How's your life working? Are things working well? If they're not, it might be time to start looking at the spiritual path. Okay? A lot of people are out there, all kinds of ideas of how to live life. As you know, I spent years on the speaker circuit doing motivational stuff. And it was okay, but I just kept knowing there was a higher level, a higher level, a higher level. And we are at the higher level here. And thank you for joining this group. We appreciate you and love you dearly. So God bless.